How do y'all view delicious people? I'm here today to view Stitches from 2012. So, this movie was so unique and so refreshing. It's a horror comedy that is to actually appeal to an adult audience. What a unique thing to do. So, this felt like very no holds barred to me, where anything could happen, as well as like the way that it like starts out in this movie kind of tells you how raunchy and how dark and like how gory even at some points of this movie it's going to get. Like there was one scene where I felt where they end up doing a thing with a cat where I was like, okay, that's a little bit far. But everything else is like, okay, um I overall just was fascinated by this film. And I was like, man, I wish this movie could have been a lot longer. I wish we would have gone on and had sequels to this movie to see where it could have head into future installments. But when going on, it seems that this was to be another kind of one off approach. So, teeing it up, what is this movie about? So, we have a clown named Stitches who is to make his way to a birthday party of Tom's. And so we have Stitches who's going on and doing this birthday party where no one is really impressed, to the point of there being an accident that leads to someone's death within this birthday party. Tom, it seems, is to really no longer focus upon his birthday. It seems that he is to even go on and start to be very paranoid, or is to possibly start like seeing visions of clowns the further and further that his birthday is to start to become. But Tom wants to go on and finally reunite the gang to have yet another birthday party, as this guy is desperate to hopefully try to win over the girl that he has always ever wanted. That, of course, in the previous birthday party was to finally give him something that he's been pining away for years to have happen again. So Tom is to go on and just kind of mention to a friend about a birthday party, and then a friend gets to a friend to a friend to a friend, friend, and then a whole party ends up happening. And so, come to find out, all these people who had gone on to this birthday party previously had all reunited to be within Tom's current birthday party. And so now, since that all has full circle turned around, we now have Stitches, who is to reunite with all of these people also, to one by one hopefully kill them all off. So, with that said, we end up doing some fun and unique stuff here. So yeah, this movie is available on Tubi, Tubi, or I think it's also on Vudu, VUDU. Anything else, more than likely, I'm sure you can probably rent or whichever this movie at some point somewhere. But those are the two free equivalents. So, the grading of this movie, I would go on and say, given that this was so fun for me, I would go on and say that this is actually, surprisingly enough, a solid good film. To me, a lot of people could feel drastically differently because of the gore of this movie, or straight up for the fact that this could just be not their kind of film. But when really looking at it, I was just like, no, this is finally something that doesn't feel like a copy and paste slasher movie, or a copy and paste kind of revenge movie. And so, finally, I was like, this is definitely going to be a thumbs up review, because it's something that really was to go on and be like, wow, for me. Uh, in maybe some good ways or maybe some bad ways. But anyways, let's go on into saying that it's about that time to just go into that double five time territory. It's about that time again to just go on into spoiler time. Spoiler time. It's about that time to spoil this movie. At the very beginning of this film, we showcase where this movie is heading by going on and have a trailer park that is knocking, because two people within this trailer are knocking boots. We have this woman who is to notice this egg within this jar, and while the humpening is going on. And so we have this woman asking Stitches the clown, like, well, hey, like, how is it that you have this egg here as things are popping off? So come to find out, the clown ends up explaining that the egg was to have been done by some kids, and he just kept it. Come to find out, the main reason why clowns are to have eggs and are to have painted their face on it is simply because there's a long tradition of trying to copyright your style in a way without putting makeup upon your face, by showing other clowns like, hey, this is what I'm going to look like with makeup, like, is this similar to your style? And so you would have a number of clowns that had these eggs that would showcase, like, yeah, this is what I look like with makeup. And so over the years, we would have clowns that painted their faces on actual eggs to show off other clowns so they can kind of copyright what they're doing. And then, uh, like, real eggs would just turn into ceramic eggs. So that way they can go on and just kind of like keep the egg handy. So we're like, hey, like, this is what I'm going to look like. Okay, great. Like, I'll do something different. So kind of the interesting thing that a clown does, and only a clown does, but like, this movie doesn't even go on and really explain that. It just says, like, oh, it's just a ritual called the Spiritus Singularium, or Singularum, which is just, yeah, something about the spirit. And it's like, really, I think it's just a copyright thing. But that's what they say in the movie. So anyways, so the clown Stitches is to realize that he's late for his party appointment. So he is to tear away from this woman to then make his way to this party with a car that is just holding together with tape and hopes and dreams. So Stitches goes on to make it to this party and almost runs over all of these kids who have already gone on and cut up this cake. And Tom's mother is to leave the kitchen knife within this dishwasher, and she just kind of leaves the dishwasher open, I guess. Because no one is to just figure, like, yeah, maybe I should close this dishwasher. Anyways, so we have all the kids go outside, and so the clown arrives and immediately insults the woman and is like, oh no, hey, no, like, I was just joking. So Stitches goes in, does the gig, and he does it with no F's given. Consistently goes on and just juggles and is to do this trick with this hat, where immediately one kid just pours his drink into the hat and is like, yeah, like, we don't give a crap about what you're doing here. So we have Stitches that is to go on and figure out who is the birthday boy, and come to find out it's Tom. So Stitches ends up going on and giving Tom this unique coin from his ears, supposedly that old ear trick. So Stitches gives Tom this coin, which at the later point in the movie, he ends up using to try and defeat this clown. And so we have Stitches continuously doing things for this party. We have Sarah at one point who smacks Stitches with this umbrella. So we have one point again have Stitches who again is juggling, and come to find out we have a character who ends up tying his shoes. So we finally go on to have Stitches who ends up getting tripped up, and so as Stitches is to stumble and fall, he immediately falls on top of all the items that are to have been in this dishwasher and falls on one of the knives, leading his eye to now have this blade through it. And so all the kids seem to scramble out of here, and now Tom is to be the only one left there, getting sprayed with blood in his face, as we are to realize that Stitches is going to soon die here, as Stitches pulls the blade out himself and is to bleed even more, quickly bleeding to death. So they end up going on to bury this clown, and so it seems that Tom is to have this treehouse with this telescope, and Tom goes on to use his telescope to spot that there seems to be a number of clowns who are all making their way to this graveyard to put Stitches' egg along with a number of other clowns and collectively keep them all there. So we have Tom that is to go his way to this graveyard to see what these clowns are up to, and they end up finding Tom and are to talk to him, but then all of a sudden it seems that nothing is going to happen to Tom. Tom is not to get killed here, but instead Tom is to assume that it might have just been all in his mind. It must have just been a dream of his that event even happened. So cue 6 years passing, and because of that traumatic event, Tom is to now be medicated to the point of him probably having like him taking medication to get rid of these clown visions that continue to happen regardless of how much he takes this medication. So, because we consistently see Tom popping this medication throughout the film. So, Tom is to wake up to get ready for his breakfast, and come to find out Tom is to immediately see his breakfast looking like a clown face, and then it looks like normal. So Tom is talking to his mother, and it seems that his mother is mainly focused on her work. And so Tom is going to have to remind his mother, it's like, well, hey, like, in all honesty, like, aren't you forgetting about a little something? Like, my birthday's coming up soon. And his mother's just like, oh, well, like, yeah, but, like, I have to kind of go on and get ahead of this other coworker of mine. And so, like, I can't go on and just, like, miss days because I just want to just do a better job than this other coworker of mine. And that's, of course, the mother's focus. So we have Tom's mother, who is to kind of make up an excuse for like not really being at all there for her son. And so Tom then has decided, it's like, well, if I'm going to technically have this whole house to myself, I might as well just go on and like finally just invite someone to be here, so I can have a good time. So Tom ends up going into school, and so Tom ends up going into this class, and so it seems that Tom is to be doing this test. And Tom is to go on and ask Vinny, it's like, well, hey, like, how about, like, you come to my party, or you come to my house, like, cause it's my birthday, and Vinny's like, oh, wow, but then, like, we end up having a number of other friends that are like, well, hey, if it's your birthday, like, why not we all come together? And it's like, okay, all right. So then we have another vision being done by Tom, where all of a sudden, while Tom is doing this test, we all of a sudden have uh, this teacher that is getting very upset that Vinny is to have kind of been very distracted. So the teacher goes on and just rips this guy's manhood from out of his pants, and then is to place it upon this balloon that is continuing to float up high. And Vinny is to get out of his seat and consistently try to grab at his own manhood that is flying on this balloon, while this teacher is to have this clown like get up to himself. And so all of a sudden, we go back to the normal classroom, and this teacher is to be like, okay, the test is over. And Tom is just shaking in fear, because of having that moment possibly to him may be so real that Tom may no longer know what reality or um, what his dream sequences are anymore. So we have Tom, who is to also meet up with Sarah, and so Sarah is to be asking for Tom's homework so that way she can copy off him. So, which is like in school, like at certain points, you would go on and see like certain people that like really have problem with math. So it's just like, hey man, like what answer did you get? Kind of thing. To kind of double check if somebody's doing this right. Because in a lot of times in a lot of classrooms, especially with math, when people would struggle, like everybody would be kind of like be like checking on people's work to just kind of make sure that they like are actually doing this right. So we had Sarah, who of course is to be asking for Tom's homework, and then it seems that Sarah is to get even closer and closer to Tom, to possibly like try to tease him, which only leads to then a guy named Paul, who is to trip up Tom and have him fall over, and Sarah ends up getting the gag of like, ha 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 ha, like, we got you. So, come to find out, we have Tom, who is to really be thinking over about this birthday party. He's like, yeah, like, why not kind of go on and just kind of throw a party? Like, my mom's not gonna be home, I can get away with it. So, Tom legitimately is to, like, put out all these kind of, uh, like, these letters, to officially invite people to his place. So, we had Tom, who was, to see Kate, who has this boyfriend who is to mention how like much of a drum solo he used to do in this band is like really just like the top and the high and the best and whatever. And like people are saying that it was just kind of so good. And so come to find out, Tom is to see through his telescope at Kate's home that because her light went on, that Tom is to notice that Kate is to be arguing with somebody on her phone. And Tom is hoping that it's that Kate is arguing with her possible boyfriend. So, and maybe Tom is thinking, well, maybe there might be hope for me to invite her to this party and she might be with me. And so we have Tom coming into school the next day, and he's handing all these cards and these whatever out. And so Tom ends up trying to hand out this card to Kate, who is in trouble with her principal because her principal is to be ragging on her because she has these red boots. And we, of course, have this principal who's like, well, hey, that's not dress code. It's like, who cares? It's red boots. Like, it's not like they're like fishnet stockings or really short skirts. Like, cut them some frickin' slack. And plus, like, there's some people that aren't as rich as others. So, but evidently there's a dress code at the school. So, we have this principal that is to say, it's like, well, hey, if you don't change these boots, like, I'm gonna send a letter to your mother, and like, I'm gonna like get you in trouble, blah 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 blah. So Tom ends up bumping into Kate. Is like, well, hey, yeah, Kate. And so Tom ends up going on and giving Kate this note to come to his birthday party. And Tom, of course, is to mock the principal and kind of say the same similar things to Kate. About like, well, hey, if you come to my birthday party, like, don't bring those red boots, because otherwise I'm going to send a letter to your mother. All of a sudden, we find out the principal is right behind Tom. And so, like, we've already given Kate detention. I would assumed that Tom would go on and get detention also. But he didn't. But so instead, the principal's like, oh, I'll just let this slide, Tom. Like, get out of here. So we... Oh, during the class, we also come to find out there was to be this girl named Mary who it seems was getting this nickname for being like a muncher and so on and so forth. But all of a sudden, it seems that this girl had finally hit puberty, and man, did she really fill out. And it seems that Vinny was to be so interested in this girl that it seems that he was to find her on a social media and was to see pictures of her and was to choke up on himself to like hope, man, like, I hope this girl makes it to this party because I definitely want to get with her somehow or another, to hope change the fact that she had this this muncher named to her, Mary Muncher. So we have Tom, of course, who ends up getting jazzed about this party. We have his friends come over, and they are like starting to put up the decorations. We have Bulger, who is to be telling the guys like how things should look, what they should be hiding. Like, there's certain just kind of like designs of this house where Bulger is like, I don't like this, I don't like that. It's like, who cares? Like, it's a party. Everything's gonna probably get wrecked anyways. So we then end up having the party, And so that, of course, is when Stitches decides that he wants to rise from the grave and come back to haunt this party. And it seems that he is an unstoppable character. It seems. So we go on into this party, and so we are to start to need to separate some of these characters. So we go on and have this party, and Tom and Kate end up talking within this party after Tom is to have gotten very, very high, as he has mistakenly eat too much of this one brownie that it seems that everyone is sharing. And I guess this wasn't edible, and so it's like, well, hey man, like, you are gonna get very high very soon. And so Tom is to at some point hope that Kate isn't to go on and walk in by the time that he is like so far gone. So Kate ends up making her intro into this place, and so Tom ends up starting to talk to Kate, and we end up having a line where somebody is to knock into Kate, and Kate ends up saying like, "Oh, I just missed you," and Tom is to say it's like, "Oh, I missed you too," and Kate's like, "Oh, like I didn't mean it that way, but like I guess this might work out." So Kate and Tom are starting to talk to one another because, of course, we had in the original birthday party, Kate was to go on and be with Tom in this treehouse and kiss him and say happy birthday. So we would hope or assume that that would kind of traditionally happen within this birthday party. So, but it seems that Kate is to have a boyfriend at this moment, and to the point where her boyfriend comes to this party and is to be a douche. So we, of course, have Kate's boyfriend, who is to mention, like he's like, hey, I'm in a band. Hey, look how great I am compared to Tom. So we then go further into this party, and so it seems that Sarah and Paul are to make their arrival here, and the way of which they approach this is we end up having a clown that is to be seen making its way into this party, and we're thinking, oh, this is Stitches. And so, come to find out, Sarah is to try to get Tom and lure him out, so that way Paul could go on and scare Tom from behind by Paul showing himself to be a clown. So alright, so we have Tom who retreats to the treehouse, and it seems that Kate is finding Tom just kind of running off. So Kate goes on to follow him into the treehouse. So it seems that Paul, after it seems that he is to go on and be the kind of pariah of this party, is to start to realize that he needs to go to the bathroom. And so that leaves Paul to go on and try to figure out where a bathroom is, possibly in this home. And so Paul is now in this clown costume where it seems that he's having issues getting out of it. So by the time that Paul finds this bathroom and is to make his way to getting to this toilet, now he has to quickly try to take off this costume, but then is to all of a sudden pee himself, to where we start to see the urine flowing through his clown shoes. So Paul's like, oh, not again. So Paul is to go on to undo his costume to then try and have his underwear be soaked of urine. Paul then is to rinse out his underwear, of course, to have this fall on top of the Kate's boyfriend's drink, to where he all of a sudden drinks and is like, man, this tastes like piss. Like, is there any more of it? So we go on to, of course, have Paul, who then is to surprisingly be met by Stitches. And so we, of course, are to be reminded that Paul was to be the guy who poured a drink into the clown's hat from before. So now Stitches is to decide to go on and continue that trick from before that Paul had interrupted. So we have Stitches that is to, of course, go on and is to hurt Paul to where he falls down. And Stitches to say, it's like, oh, you have something in your throat? So Stitches goes on and pulls out a rabbit out of Paul's mouth. And then is to also go on and kick Paul's head clean off, to where all of a sudden we start to see this spiral of a head of blood that ends up falling into this little pond somewhere and is just bloop into the water. So Paul, of course, is to now be dead, of course. So we then move on to the next character that, of course, is going to at some point possibly get killed. So we have at some point where we had Tom, who is to have this head injury once he was to get surprised by, of course, Paul and Sarah. So we have Bulger, who is to hear that there is a first aid that is inside this pantry, and so Bulger is like, okay, great, I can go on, get to this pantry, and find this band-aid for my friend. Bulger then is to go on into this pantry and is to realize that there seems to be a number of these canned things that, of course, he is to thoroughly enjoy. And so Boulder is to lose himself in these canned goods and is to not even think about the first aid or the band-aid or whatever. To the point of Kate at some point being with Tom in this treehouse to like, oh, I guess your wound had healed. Or stopped bleeding. So we have Stitches that is trying to seek out these characters, and so he goes on and is to consistently take his his red nose off to have it try to go throughout this party and track down where, of course, these people are now. And so this ball is to consistently roll around and find out where these people are. And so Stitches is like, oh, okay. So it avoids Stitches from going throughout this party to have people see him, and people run away from this scene. So it seems that Stitches is to go on and find Bulger and is to realize, since this kid is using this can opener to open all of these cans, we then decide that Stitches is going to go on to open up this kid's head with the same can opener and use a what is the word? A a scooper that would normally be used for ice cream to have Stitches kind of scoop out this guy's brains and put it on a bowl, where it seems that Stitches is going to eat that later, with there also being a blood topping on top of it. So all of a sudden it seems that Sarah is to make her way into this pantry, and so Stitches to put Bulger's head in front of him. And so when Sarah is to consistently ask Bulger questions about, like, well, hey, do you need some help? Like, do you need me to call anybody? And Bulger's like, it's like, So, come to find out, now Bulger is dead. Alright, so now we go on to have Sarah, who is to now be looking for Paul. And so Sarah starts to go throughout these rooms and is trying to now look for Paul. And come to find out, Sarah is to find somebody that does look like a clown, but it ends up being Stitches. So now let's go on and focus also on Tom and Kate at this treehouse. So we, of course, had Kate, who was so upset with Sarah to the point of, like, reaming her out for the fact that Sarah was going on and doing this prank that, of course, is in bad taste. And Sarah, of course, doesn't really care, but Kate goes on and retreats to try and comfort Tom. So Tom is to be in this treehouse, and Kate is to notice that Tom's telescope is to be pointed at her house. And Kate, of course, to be very paranoid about this. And she's like, well, hey, like, why is it that this telescope is to be, like, right by my window? And so Tom ends up being very honest and is like, well, hey, no, I was to only see that this, that, like, your light was on, and I was noticing that you were arguing with somebody, but, like, I couldn't make heads or tails of it, so, like, I just kind of let it go. But, like, I'm not a peeping Tom, I'm just, like, just very observant. But also, Tom was to mention that he, of course, was to see these clowns making their way to this graveyard and putting up this ritual. And Tom was to kind of wonder if this ritual was real or if it was all in his head. Because Tom is to consider himself to be some kind of mental Tom instead of some peeping Tom. So Tom is to showcase to Kate that there seems to be a number of clown rituals, which of course is to also be the ritual which that I had said earlier, called the Spiritus Singularum, if I ended up saying that at some point, that is to be somehow tied to clowns going on and putting eggs or it's a ceremony, of course, that is to be the clown's spirit, that is to have a clown put its face upon this egg, so I guess the egg can keep the spirit of it, which isn't the actual case, because the whole copyright face thing, that is the tradition of the egg. But so, but Tom is to kind of feed her this spirit thing, that it's to kind of keep the spirit of the clown, to just kind of do something supernatural here. So, we have at one point where Tom, of course, is to notice that the clown has made his way to this party as he's going on, like, hi, I'm here. As we now have Stitch is making his way to want to go off and now kill Sarah. So Sarah is to be going on and looking for Paul, finding him in this room, or what she assumed would be Paul, but instead is to be Stitch's. And so it seems that Sarah is to possibly like put together a good outing against this character, but then it comes to find out that we reintroduce this umbrella, and the clown is to try to open up this umbrella to do something with it, to do some kind of trick. But instead, when Sarah tries to get away, we then have Stitches who tosses the umbrella, and it goes through Sarah's head, through her eyeball, and where we end up seeing the eyeball kind of shift and change closest to the camera, and now Sarah is dead. So, once it seems that Tom is to realize that Stitches is killing people, Tom then runs back to the house, realizing that he needs to go on and do something. And so Tom is to try to find out where exactly Vinny is so he can try to get everybody out of this party. And come to find out, Vinny has made his way to impress Mary so much that both Vinny and Mary are going off to make their way into this room where they are to possibly bed one another. We also, it seems, have Richie, who is to go on to get himself a girl named Jenny. So, which it seems that at first, like, he was just trying to have Richie peel off this girl Jenny, so that way Vinny could get to Mary, but then it all of a sudden seems that Richie is to realize that he's just going to end up with this Jenny girl until he dies. So, sadly enough. So, Mary and Vinny are in a room together. They're getting closer and closer to making it, and all of a sudden Tom is shouting for Vinny, realizing he's in this room. Vinny opens this window and he's like, well, hey, give me 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. And Tom is like, no, like, you need to do this now. Like, your life could be at jeopardy. So, and the more and more we have Tom going to this room, finding exactly where Vinny is, the more and more it seems that Mary is to get upset and start to realize, like, dude, I'm just going to put my dress back on and, like, realize that, like, this C-blocking moment is to just ruin, like, my good time. So we have Tom and we have Vinny realize, like, something horrible is going on here. And so Vinny runs off with Tom to have, even at one point, Kate is to get hit with this this springing hand, and she ends up getting knocked out. So the guys end up hiding away in this room for Stitches the Clown to try and find them, try to figure out where they are. But at some point he ends up kind of giving up on them, and he goes for Richie instead. So we have Tom, and we, of course, have Vinny, and Tom is stating, it's like, well, hey, if we go on and if we hide in with all the other people, like, Stitch isn't going to go on and kill all of us at one time. Like, it's just not going to play out that way. So, because, like, this would be a public killing, and, like, there'd be numbers and so on and so forth. So, when, like, this guy doesn't want to kill anybody out in the open like that. So, while Tom and Vinny try to make it back into the public area, we have, of course, Stitches going on and instead going after Richie. So we have Richie, who is to be the kid that wanted this balloon animal, this dinosaur as a balloon animal, and it seems that the only thing that this clown could do is make a balloon animal that was a dog, and that was the best he could do. So we go on to, of course, now have Stitches going and using Richie's intestines as a balloon animal, and so the clown ends up again making another dog balloon animal, and is to show Richie, it's like, hey, like, look at this dog. So Richie starts to run off, but then he realizes that he's losing a lot of body parts, so he just falls. And so we have at one point where Jenny is to see Richie and just be in awe. And so, like, we have Stitches, who ends up kind of making this fat joke, bizarrely, to this girl that doesn't have any tie to what's really going on here. But so we then have Stitches going into a rush to get to Richie, and is to use this uh, inflating balloon tool to start inflating Richie's head, to where all of a sudden the head is just like, what is going on? To have this guy's head all of a sudden explode from the pressure of this being blown up so much. So now that we have Stitches going on and doing such a kill where it seems that everyone is to go on and see this happen, now we just have Stitches making his way through this home. Alright, so now that Richie is dead, now we of course have Tom, who has this master plan. And so Tom is to go on and retrieve the coin of which that he was to be given by this clown at his birthday party years ago. And so we have Tom that ends up inserting this coin into his pocket. So Tom is to go on to take him and Kate and run off to make their way to this graveyard. So Tom is to have this plan. It's like, well, maybe that whole clown thing was not in my imagination, and maybe all that we really need to go on and do, considering this clown doesn't seem possibly defeatable, as when Stitches is to try to fight off Tom, Stitches is to dunk Tom into the sink, and Tom tries to defend himself by putting this dishwasher soap into Stitches' face, to where it just seems like he just starts to put bubbles from out of his mouth. And we go on and have them numerous times try to stab into this character, or to re-stab into the same eye which he had gotten stabbed into previously. And so they try everything, nothing seems to work. So we have Tom running off to decide, like, well, hey, we need to go to this graveyard, and maybe finally going on to crush this egg that is to be in this container will do the trick. So Tom and Kate run off to this graveyard to then find Stitches also making his way there through this very small bike, this kind of very kind of miniature bike, and it seems very funny. So As both Tom and Kate make their way to this graveyard, we now see, of course, Stitches on this like tightrope act, kind of balancing, uh, trying to, I guess, make his way into this graveyard, but then he ends up falling over. So Tom and Kate are realizing that Stitches is nearby, so they hide behind this gravestone. And so Tom and Kate, who are to realize that their time may finally be up here, they kiss. And so we have Stitches trying to figure out where these kids are to then finally have them rush their way to get to where this spot is for them to break this lock to make their way into this kind of little place. We have Kate who is saying that maybe she's gonna need to like stand guard while Tom goes in there and is to try to find this egg. Come to find out, this egg is in a very odd position. It's on like the top of this shelf. So Tom tries to climb his way to this shelf to try and go on and realize that he just can't get to this egg. So it seems that he comes up with a way for these eggs to all fall over. And so luckily, Tom is trying to open up this jar, get to the right egg. And so now we get to the final moment of the showdown where it seems that we then have this egg where it's like, okay, we got to figure out a way to destroy this. We got to figure out a way to get rid of this egg. So, come to find out, all of this is to come to a coin flip scenario. As we have Vinny, who is to go on and tie the shoes of Stitches while he's not realizing it. And Tom is to flip this coin, and Stitches is trying to grab this coin, and Stitches is then not realizing that his shoes are tied, and so all of a sudden, Stitches is to go on and have this egg, and he ends up falling upon it himself, and he ends up cracking the egg, which then is to start cracking him, which then goes on and is to finally kill this character off, to where everybody's like, yeah, like, high five, everybody, like, we did it. So, the one thing that I did not get into, because I didn't like this scene myself, we also had the cat. So at one point, the clown, before he ends up killing Sarah, we have Stitches that goes on and is to try to figure out how many lives that this cat has, and so Stitches starts bashing the cat, sadly, and realizes that it's like, oh, this cat had 9 lives. So that whole scene didn't much make sense to me, but so but anyways, after it seems that we resolve the whole Stitches thing, it seems that Tom is to finally get a sense of relief from all of this event, that it's like, okay, like finally we can put to rest all of what had happened. And the next thing we end up seeing is the fact that these clowns are trying to reassemble this clown egg, hoping that if they put it back together again, that it'll just establish this clown. But it seems that we don't get that far. It just kind of shows that this egg is to be kind of assembled, and then it just kind of stops to hope that we may get a sequel somewhere down the road. So, with that said, that kind of finishes up this movie. We get, in the credits, we get a gag reel, which I thought was kind of cool. But other than that, I'm sorry for how much that this review had to posit certain points because really, when looking at it, I was to have consistent reasons for that. So with that said, I'm going to get out of here. Goodbye, everybody. Goodbye, everybody.